Unit 4 deals with energy resources and energy transfer. If you're in EC1, it really only deals with energy transfers. And so the first thing I wanted to do was then just talk about what are the different energy stores and how can those energies be transferred from one to the other. Because remember that the principle of conservation of energy states that energy is never gained or lost. It is simply moved from one store to another, transferred between stores. Okay, so let me pause that while I write that out. All right. So, yeah, energy is never gained or lost. Sometimes we talk about energy never being created or destroyed. Excuse me. It's only transferred from one store to another, which means, excuse me, sorry. So the idea is that when we talk about energy being moved from one store to another, transferred, you want to be careful and make sure that you're not talking about energy that is lost. There is energy that is being wasted, perhaps, and I'll talk about that in the Sankey energy diagram. But this is not something, but it's never technically gained or lost. All of the energy in the universe is the energy that was there at the beginning, and it's the same amount that it's been there for the past 13 billion years. Okay, so it's transferred from one store to another. So then let's talk about what are the different energy stores. So energy stores can come in many different forms. All right. They can be chemical. So this is the idea of in food or within molecules, right? There's energy stored within the chemical bonds that hold those molecules and elements together. There's kinetic energy. This is the energy of movement. There's gravitational energy. So anything that has mass exerts gravity. And so the larger, we don't think about this in terms of the small things that are in our, that we pick up and hold and things like that. So gravitational energy, we're usually talking very large objects like suns, planets, Earth, things like that. Stars, galaxies, all that kind of stuff. Okay. There's elastic energy. So this is the energy that's stored within a spring, whether it's compressed or stretched. Either way, it has energy stored within it. All right. Thermal, this is heat energy. Then you have magnetic. Think about north and south poles. They attract, or if they're the same, they repel each other. The same idea would be electrostatic. So this is the idea that positive and negative charges attract. If they're like charges, they repel. And the last one, if I can fit it in, is nuclear. So the nuclear energy, this is literally the energy that is contained within the nucleus of an atom. So for those of you in EC2, when we talk about fusion and fission, right? When you either force two nuclei together, which is fusion, or you break it apart, which is fission, there's an enormous amount of energy that is released during that. All right, and that's the nuclear energy. So these are the different energy stores, okay? Now, for energy, and so the idea is that how do you take them from one to the other, all right? So let's say, for example, chemical to kinetic, all right? So this would be, an example of this would be the muscles in our body, okay? They take chemical bonds, for example, ATP, which is the energy source of cells, and they use that chemical energy and they turn that into, in the muscle cells, they turn that into actual movement, right? When I contract a muscle, right? The idea is that that's chemical energy that's held within the ATP molecule that is being transferred into kinetic energy, that of movement. All right. Now, the other thing I want to mention is that gravitational and elastic, put a little star next to them, because these two, we often talk about not necessarily gravitational energy and elastic energy, but the potential energy of these. And so we say that something has gravitational potential energy if it's being held above the surface, right? So here, for example, right, if this is my pen and it's being held up above, then this has a gravitational potential energy. And the idea is that the potential energy in it can be turned into, for example, kinetic energy. If I drop it, then it picks up movement energy. That's what kinetic is, right? And the same with elastic potential energy. So if you squeeze a spring, I'm exerting force, right? I'm using, you could say, chemical energy or kinetic energy to do that. And then the spring itself now has a potential, elastic potential energy within that spring. Okay. So often these two, we don't talk about gravitational energy store as much as we talk about gravitational potential. The same with elastic, so elastic potential. Now, ways that they can be transferred. So there's many ways, and you need to know, let's see, 4 of them, I believe. Yes. All right. The first one is heat. or thermal transfer. This is one way that, and this can be in the form of IR waves, infrared waves, right? Anything that gives off heat, gives off infrared waves. It can also be convection and conduction. I have a separate video for this, for the heat transfers, talking about the 3 ways of that. All right, so I won't say any more about that. You can do it mechanically. And mechanically means, for example, okay, so if I take this and I lift it up, that's a mechanical transfer of energy. I've transferred energy from me to this by lifting it. The same thing if a crane lifts a rock, all right, or you pedal a bicycle, that's a mechanical energy transfer. You are transferring energy from yourself to the bike in order to make it move. All right, so that's mechanically. Electrically, if you go back and look at unit 2, the idea that voltage, right, the volts that are contained within a system, that is an energy. That's how much energy do you have per electron or per coulomb within that system. And so when we talk about electricity, we're really talking electrical transfers. We're talking about voltage, right, the transfer of energy within that system via volts. And the other one would be by radiation. And radiation, it's a vague one. Usually for you guys, it means either in the form of light waves or sound waves. All right. And often when we talk about radiation, for you guys, for iGCSE purposes, we're often talking about this is a form of wasted energy. So if you think about a dropping something, right? If I drop something, it makes a noise, and that's sound waves that are being sent out. I don't know if you can hear that because I've got my mic on, but anyway, and that would be a form of wasted energy. All right, so those are your energy stores and transfers.